So back to our channel, we are in our last lesson today from our guidance chapter 52, that is circulatory shock. It is the last one from our CVS physiology, cardiovascular physiology. So let us start as usual with our glossary terms and let us go into topic later. So first one, the glossary term here we have now is the anaphylactic shock. So what is anaphylactic shock? Actually, first we need to know what is shock. Shock is nothing but when our blood volume is lost, then we call normally it as shock. So here we have different types of shock. Let us see. The first one is anaphylactic shock. The shock which is mainly resulting from a severe generalized allergic reaction. So here the key word is allergic reaction. You can see the allergic. Because of allergy only, this is leading how, let us say, with resultant release of histamine. So this causes, histamine is a vasodilator, powerful vasodilator. So because of histamine, this causes vasodilation and loss of fluid into the tissue. Whenever vasodilation takes place, with the endothelium pores, the fluid may leak into the interstitial space. So this may lead to loss of fluid into the tissue. So anaphylactic shock, here the keyword is mainly due to allergy. Due to allergy, especially that to antigen antibody reaction, we'll see it. So because of this, the histamine is released. We'll see this details also in this video today. Next, let us see what is circulatory shock. So circulatory shock is reduced tissue perfusion. Perfusion means here the blood supply to specific tissue is reduced, resulting in inadequate oxygen. Of course, if blood flow is low, even the oxygen supply to the tissue is low, because blood only carries the oxygen, right? And the nutrient supply and leading to tissue damage if untreated. So oxygen, nutrients, everything will be lost if the blood is not supplied. So this is leading to tissue damage if untreated. So you can see hence the name here, circulatory shock. So circulation is not there, so it is resulting in shock, hypoperfusion. So next let us see what is compensated shock. So in the word here, in the headings only, actually you can understand the definition. Compensation means our body is trying to compensate it. So let us see what is that. An early stage of shock where the cardiovascular compensatory mechanism overcome the shock without any external treatment. So here the treatment is unnecessary. We don't need to give any treatment. It just goes on, it just recovers by itself. Mainly by cardiovascular system, it tries to compensate it. Next, hypovolemic shock. In the name you can understand. Hypovolemic means less volume in the blood, leading to shock. The shock resulting from reduced blood volume, mainly resulting in reduced venous return and also inadequate cardiac output. So whenever the venous return will be low, the preload is low. According to Frank Starling, the contractility is low, even the cardiac output is low. So here also you can apply the Frank Starling law. So that is a hypovolemic shock. Next, coming to irreversible shock. So this is a dangerous form. In the name you are seeing irreversible. It is not reversible. Even if you give any kind of treatment, it is very hard to save this patient. But sometimes some rare treatments are also possible. Let us see all those. So a late stage of shock where the patient is still alive, but where the treatment is ineffective in stopping the further progression of shock. And next, coming to neurogenic. Here also by name you can understand neuro means here the nervous reflexes are involved. The shock after often resulting from brain damage and subsequent widespread loss of vascular tone and resulting in increased vascular capacity. So the vascular capacity is increased, but what happens? The brain is damaged, the neuron reflexes are damaged. And next, let us see what is septic shock. Septic means always, I think everyone know if you study microbiology, septic means any kind of infection, mainly bacterial infection. So shock resulting from severe disseminated bacterial infection and widespread vasodilation. So here also, because of infection, vasodilation is going on because of release of vasodilator substances. So let us start our shock. So mainly in circulatory shock, even the cardiovascular system, vasomotor system and circulatory parts begin to deteriorate. So the shock once begins to deteriorate, so shock is prone to become worse. So actually what you need to understand, it's like a positive, it is working, this shock is always working on a principle of positive feedback. You know what is positive feedback mechanism? Already we have studied it in general physiology. So whenever any kind of stimulus is promoting other one, it is called positive feedback. Here once the shock comes, it gives a signal to promote the shock. So it is like a positive mechanism. So it is very serious, it's going to turn into serious. So even though here CVS, vasometer, all this are also getting destroyed here, means they are not able to compensate, then it may lead into severe case. So shock mainly results from decrease in cardiac output, because blood volume, when the blood volume decreases, of course if the cardiac output decreases, then even the blood volume decreases. So also some kinds, actually what are the reasons for the decrease in cardiac output? Let us see. Cardiac abnormalities like myocardial infarction, toxic states, any valvular dysfunction, arrhythmias, all this, they, what they do mainly, they affect the pumping ability of the heart. So whenever the pumping ability of heart is decreased, mainly we call this as cardiogenic shock. So here heart is involved mainly, hence the name cardiogenic. Genesis means from where it is born. It is born from cardio shock. So it is mainly the due to decrease in pumping ability of heart, it is mainly called as cardiogenic shock. So any kind of, you can say, cardiogenic shock or any abnormalities in heart, finally they lead to decrease in cardiac output. That is the final outcome. So decrease in venous return decrease the cardiac output, and this is the most common cause of to decrease the blood volume. So you may get a question like, what is the most common cause to decrease the blood volume in the shock? That is, of course, decrease in venous return by Frank Starling law, decrease in cardiac output. So now let us see what are the reasons why the venous return is decreased. Mainly whenever there is decrease in vascular tone or any obstruction to blood flow at the circulation, the venous return is perfect, but any obstruction at the pulmonary vein, then the blood may not enter into the left side of the heart. Or decrease in vascular tone, the blood is present in the valves, but because of vascular tone, any vascular deformities, the blood is not able to enter. So all this might be the reasons. So now let us start with the circulatory shock. So we have discussed here the problem is mainly with the cardiovascular, that is circulation problem. So where cardiovascular compensatory mechanisms try to overcome. So let us see all the compensations, everything. So circulatory shock is without decreasing cardiac output. This is very important. Here the cardiac output is not decreasing. Once again, let us see the definition, you can understand. Reduced tissue perfusion resulting in inadequate oxygen and nutrient supply and leading to tissue damage if untreated. So here the supply is decreasing, but the cardiac output is normal. But why the supply is decreasing? Let us see the reasons. The first one is excessive metabolic rate. So whenever there is lot of metabolic rate, some tissues may not get that much amount of blood supply, and abnormal tissue perfusion pattern. Most cardiac output go to the blood vessels, then supplying local tissues with nutrients. So in this case also, like abnormal tissue perfusion, at the site of perfusion only, if there are any abnormalities, even though cardiac output is very high, if that tissue is not able to properly absorb this blood, then what heart can do? The cardiac output is normal but it can't absorb, then that is the problem. And sometimes arterial pressure is normal by nervous reflexes, but the shock may be present. So sometimes even like that may take place, and also sometimes you can see arterial pressure may drop to half of the normal, but the shock is normal. So what it means to say is, we need to not always depend blindly on arterial pressure. We can't determine the shock by means of arterial pressure. They may vary. Sometimes arterial pressure is normal but the shock is present, and sometimes arterial pressure has dropped to half but still the shock is normal. So sometimes there may be any kind of you know misleading. So always don't determine the shock by means of arterial pressure. So in most type of shock, always we see severe blood loss, that is arterial. Normally we are talking about shock. In normal shock, already we have discussed here that don't depend on arterial pressure, but normally if you say shock, you get the most important one is decrease in cardiac output and decrease in arterial pressure. Of course both will decrease. You can, it is a silly point, I think you can understand. When our arterial side pressure is dropping, then blood is not able to pump more to the ventricle, and then even if the ventricle can't pump more, of course cardiac output will decrease. So when our arterial pressure decreases, cardiac output also decreases in a mainly shock because of severe blood loss. Now let us see the end results of shock. So tissue gets deteriorated, circulatory shock, critical state, shock itself lead to more shock. It is a positive feedback mechanism. So mainly in critical state, you can see tissues get deteriorated, they lead to circulatory shock. Mainly in the critical state, shock itself only increases further shock by positive feedback mechanism. So inadequate blood flow to the tissues, they decrease the blood flow to the heart and also circulatory system, in turn decrease in cardiac output, and there is a viscous cycle ensuring that increases. Viscous cycle means nothing but this same process again continues many times. You can understand, if it continues many times, there will be again further and further decrease in cardiac output. Finally it may also lead to death of the patient. So always we have seen in a general physiology in the beginning also, viscous cycles may lead to death because the process continues many times. So we need to break that viscous cycle. To break that, we need to take a immediate treatment. So now let us observe what are the stages of shock, how the shock stages are divided, maybe hemorrhagic shock or circulatory, any type of shock. What are these stages? Let us see. The first stage is non-progressive shock. In the name itself, again you can see non-progressive means it's not progressing, means it can recover by itself without any treatment. So hence it is also called as compensative shock. So compensation brings shock to normal without any treatment. And next coming to progressive stage, again you can understand by name, means it is getting progressive, so the treatment should be given. So without therapy, shock becomes steadily worse until the death occurs. That means we should give the therapy here, because if therapy is not given, it may lead to death. So here the therapy is needed. Next coming to irreversible shock. Of course here if you give therapy also it will not work. The shock has progressed that increase that all therapy fails. So that is worst condition of shock. Even if you give therapy, there is no treatment for this. So now let us see actually what is the main reason why this shock is coming. So first let us see the first one, that is hypovolemic hemorrhagic shock. This hypovolemia means blood volume is lost. Why blood volume is lost or decreased? Due to hemorrhage. Hemorrhage is the most common cause. Hemorrhage means due to any accidents or any injury, the blood will ooze out from the body, then it is called as hemorrhage. So hemorrhage is the most common cause of hypovolemic shock, where hemorrhage leads to decrease in pressure of circulation and also decrease venous return, in turn decreases cardiac output and shock occurs. So bleeding, volume or cardiac output or arterial pressure, all these three components, how they are related, we can see here by means of a graph. So you can see on x-axis we have the total blood removed, that is bleeding, and on y-axis you can see the cardiac output and arterial pressure. So this blue line indicates the arterial pressure and this indicates the cardiac output. So you can see as the bleeding is progressing further, even the arterial pressure is dropping and even the cardiac pressure is dropping, you can see. So you can see in the 10% of total blood volume removed with no effect on arterial pressure or cardiac output. So you can see at the 10% of bleeding, at the beginning of 10%, I think almost cardiac output, arterial pressure are also normal. But if you increase the blood loss, then decrease the cardiac output first and later the arterial pressure, both fall to zero when 40 to 45% of total blood volume has been removed. So here 40 to 45% of blood volume is in this stage. You can see first the cardiac output is dropping very fast, later the arterial pressure is falling, you can see somewhat peak, again low. So first the cardiac output drops and later the arterial pressure follows it. So that is what you need to remember, the relationship between the bleeding volume, cardiac output and arterial pressure. First cardiac output drops and next the arterial pressure drops, and at normal bleeding both are normal. So that's it. So next let us see the sympathetic reflex compensation in shock and their special value to maintain the arterial pressure. So let us see this. So whenever there is decrease in arterial pressure, like especially after hemorrhage, and also plus associated with decrease in pressure in pulmonary artery and vein, in thorax, and it causes the powerful sympathetic reflex. So sympathetic reflex is like whenever we are in stress. Now this is a stressful conditions, right? Hemorrhage means lot of blood is lost, arterial pressure is dropping, even the pressure in pulmonary artery and vein is dropping. So of course sympathetic will fire now, it will stimulate the sympathetic vasoconstriction. Always sympathetic system will lead to constriction. So constriction means blood vessel is narrowing. If blood vessel is narrowing, there is low blood flow, but increase the total peripheral resistance. When our peripheral resistance increases, it of course increases the blood pressure. So you can see arterioles constrict in systemic circulation, leading to increase in total peripheral resistance. Veins and venous reservoirs also constrict, maintain the venous return, and heart rate also increases from 72 beats to 160 to 180 beats per minute. So in absence of sympathetic reflex, 50 to 20% of blood volume is removed over period of 30 minutes. Here removed means you can understand, if sympathetic system is not there, then hemorrhage will also further progress, that is the bleeding will like increase to 15 to 20% just in 30 minutes before a person dies. So in contrast, a person can sustain 30 to 40% loss of blood volume when the reflexes are intact, that is when the sympathetic system is activated, then these are all intact. So by this we can understand that how powerful and important the sympathetic system for us to regulate the blood flow. So now let us move on to the great effect of sympathetic nerve reflexes in maintaining the arterial pressure than cardiac output. So mainly here they are saying that sympathetic reflex mainly it gives more maintenance to arterial pressure when compared with cardiac output. Let us see how. So you can see sympathetic reflex mainly increases the arterial pressure by increasing the total peripheral resistance. So whenever the total peripheral resistance increases, the pressure increases. So sympathetic constriction of vein is important to keep the venous return and cardiac output from falling too much, of course. So the second plateau at 50 millimeters of mercury in arterial pressure here. Here you can see in the 50 millimeters of mercury, you have seen the arterial pressure has a second, second plateau. It results mainly from activation of CNS ischemic response. So we already discussed about the CNS ischemic response, so which mainly causes the extreme stimulation of sympathetic nervous system when brain begins to experience the lack of oxygen or excess buildup of oxygen. So mainly the CNS ischemic response is here the name itself you can see CNS ischemic means whenever the brain gets low oxygen or low blood pressure, low blood, then it gets activated. So this in turn again fires more the sympathetic nervous system. So if sympathetic nervous system is more activated, there is further more increase in arterial blood pressure. So CNS ischemic response is called last ditch stand. Why it is called last ditch stand? Because it is the last, means if the brain gets low blood, means of course the person will go into brain death, the brain may go unconscious, fainting. So it is called last ditch stand, that is the last stimulus coming from the brain to say that increase the sympathetic reflexes in attempt to keep arterial pressure from falling too low. So this is how, that's why we are saying that sympathetic nervous system maintains more arterial pressure when compared with the cardiac output. So of course you can now understand if arterial pressure increases, in turn even the cardiac output will increase automatically. So now let us see the protection of coronary and cerebral blood flow by reflexes. So these are the main organs, the brain and heart, they need the blood, especially in these conditions. In any conditions, they are the main organs. If the blood flow decreases to them, it may lead to severe damage to us. So how the reflexes maintain them, let us see. So even when there is decreased cardiac output, the maintenance of normal arterial pressure is protection of blood flow through coronary and cerebral circulation. So how it does? Of course, again, sympathetic stimulation don't cause significant constriction of either cerebral or cardiac vessel in both vascular beds. The local blood flow autoregulation is excellent, which prevents moderate decrease in arterial pressure from decreasing blood flow. So as we thought, it's wrong. Not only sympathetic nervous system always protecting us, the local autoregulation is playing a major role in the case of our coronary and also cerebral blood flow maintenance. So therefore the blood flow through heart and brain is mainly maintained essentially at normal as long as arterial pressure doesn't fall below 70 millimeters of mercury. This is a standard value. If it should be in a limit of 70 millimeters of mercury, despite fact that blood flow in some other areas of body might be low to as little as 2/3 to half quarter normal by this time because of vasoconstriction. So this is very important. See, uh, like if your body is in shock, right, because of shock the blood in other parts of the body may be at very low, the arterial pressure in other parts of the body like in general circulation will be very low, but in especially the arterial pressure in brain and coronary arteries are maintained at 70 millimeters of mercury. So that is the reason why they are maintained at that level. So because of that they are able to be protected in the case of this, or whenever there is shock, whenever there is further decrease in arterial pressure. So that is what they are saying, and that too that is not maintained by sympathetic but the local blood flow autoregulation. So this is a key word here, the local blood flow autoregulation maintains the cerebral and coronary blood flow rather than the sympathetic reflexes. So now let us see the non-progressive shock compensated shock. So person can recover that, in this case the non-progressive shock means compensative means we know already, we discussed here the person can recover. Therefore the lesser degree of shock is called non-progressive shock, and other factors compensate enough to prevent further deterioration of circulation. So the negative feedback control reserve the person, recovers the person, which return the cardiac output and arterial pressure back to normal. So before we have seen, if the positive feedback is working here, then it may increase the shock. But if the negative feedback comes here, it may decrease the shock, of course, because here now the cardiac output, all those are very low. So because of negative feedback, they try to increase the cardiac output, they try to recover the person to the normal. So what are those reflexes which are helping to recover us back? The first one is the baroreceptor reflex, which is a sympathetic stimulation of circulation, and next one is CNS ischemic response. It is more powerful sympathetic stimulation. It's not activated until the arterial pressure falls below 50 millimeters of mercury. Yeah, so everything have a specific value. So before, if you see in coronary and cerebral circulation, 70 millimeters of mercury of arterial pressure is maintained even though in whole body the arterial pressure has fallen down. But here you can see in CNS ischemic response, it gives the stimulus only when the arterial pressure falls below 50. So that is a landmark, or you can say it's a perfect limit for this. If the CNS ischemic response need to activate, then the arterial blood pressure should fall below 50. And reserve stress relaxation of circulatory system cause the blood vessel contract around and decrease the blood volume, so that the blood volume is available adequately for circulation. So this is also one more for process. And next one is increased renin and formation of angiotensin 2, which constrict the peripheral arterioles and cause to decrease water output or urine output, and also sodium chloride by kidneys. So both can prevent progression of shock, that is they are retained more, so that the blood volume increases. And next is increased secretion of adrenal medulla of epinephrine and norepinephrine, which also further lead to constriction of peripheral arterioles and veins, and of course increase the heart rate. And increased secretion by posterior pituitary of vasopressin, mainly ADH we know, which constrict the peripheral arterioles and veins and increase the water retention. We know already, as the name anti-diuresis means anti, it is not allowing diuresis, means it is reabsorbing more water and salt. So next, compensatory mechanism returns the blood volume back to normal, including the absorption of fluid to capillary from the interstitial space. So this is very compensatory. You can see, in interstitium, the fluid which is present, it is also absorbed back into the blood, so that we can maintain the blood volume. And conservation of water and salt by kidneys, and also by increasing the thirst by sending the message to medulla, especially to not to medulla, thirst center near the hypothalamus, and increase the appetite for salt and make the person drink more water and eat salty foods if they're able to do so. So this is very important. So whenever a person, if you see in shock, recommend them to drink more water and also eat more salty foods. And next, the sympathetic reflex along with catecholamines are also increased. They also of course bring the recovery within just 13 seconds to few minutes after the hemorrhage. So remember, sympathetic reflex, catecholamines play major role, and angiotensin, vasopressin reverse the stress relaxation and cause contraction of blood vessels and venous reservoirs. So all require 10 minutes to 1 hour to respond completely, but increase in arterial pressure or increase in circulatory filling pressure, therefore increase the return of blood to the heart. So you can see these are all different. We have different many, you can see the list. We have many compensatory mechanisms. These all work together to help our body whenever we are in shock. So readjustment of blood volume by absorption interstitial spaces and intestine, uh, by ingestion and absorption of water and salt require 1 to 48 hours, but recovery take place eventually to can't enter the progressive stage. So that if the recovery take place, it will not enter the further into progressive state, but once it enters the progressive state, we need to give more treatment, right? This is self compensation of body, but in progressive state we need to give external treatment as well, whereas coming to irreversible state, it is very dangerous. Whatever we do, it is not useful. So here you can see the positive feedbacks which are mainly leading to increase in shock. So you can see whenever especially in shock, cardiac output is decreased, right? So because of this, even arterial pressure is decreased and systemic blood flow is decreased, of course. So because of this, decreased cardiac nutrition, decreased nutrition of tissues, intravascular clotting, because all this decreased nutrition to brain, decreased nutrition to vascular system, tissue ischemia, decreased vasomotor activity, all this in turn increase capillary permeability, release of toxin, all this in turn lead to vascular dilation. And because of this, there is venous pooling of blood, and due to increase in capillary permeability, there is decreased blood volume, and decrease venous return. So all this together, you can see venous pulling of blood lead to decreased venous return, and release of toxin lead to cardiac depression. So all this further lead to again back going to decrease the cardiac output. So you can say this is how positive mechanism leading to further increase in shock. So positive shock is increased, then it will again further increase the shock. So this is the first part, and the next one we'll discuss in our second part.